Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight my guest is Billy Carson. Before I bring him on, I want to remind you that you can always get new regular episodes free on Rokfin, Odysee, and all podcast platforms. Click that link in the description and check us out on Rokfin. This is where you can get all of our content that you can't find anywhere else, amazing premium content. You also can get our regular shows and all the content from every creator on Rokfin. And check out the amazing new podcasts that we have from the Forbidden Knowledge News Network, such as Raised by Giants with Ryder Lee. We've got Day Zero with myself, Cory Hughes, Charlie Robinson, and X-Cube 420. And Dawson Time with Ryan Dawson and Cory Hughes. Those are all available on all podcast platforms right now. And we have a new episode of Day Zero coming out this Sunday. And finally, guys, if you're reaching that stage in life where you don't have as much energy, feeling a little run down, maybe a few gray hairs are popping in, check out C60 Purple Power. Go to their website, click that link in the description. You're going to get 10% off your order plus free shipping, but check out all the benefits that people have had and see what it could do for you. Tonight I want to welcome back to the show Billy Carson. He is the founder of Forbidden Knowledge, Inc., and the best-selling author of the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets. He is an expert host on Deep Space, as well as Gaia's original series, Ancient Civilizations. He is also the CEO of First Class Space Agency, based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Billy, welcome back. How you doing tonight?
I am fantastic, man. Glad to be back on here with you.
Yeah, it's great to have you back. It's always great having you on. It was really cool meeting you at the UFO MegaCon in June, too. I had a great time there. You had a fantastic presentation. And tonight, I thought we could discuss the possibilities of not only life beyond our planet, but what kind of technology could there be, not only from possibly ET, but even us, and how far does this technology go? We could even talk about some possible future threats from space, anything that we need to keep our eyes on, and the state of disclosure on our planet. And I thought maybe we could end with some messages of hope in this increasingly divisive and troubled times. It's been a while since you've been on. Is there anything new or exciting that you've been working on lately?
Oh, you got a lot of stuff going on. I just traveled to Greece a couple of weeks back. I just returned back to the USA. Filming and recording there some great new content for Forbidden Knowledge TV. And now I am headed out to Egypt in a week and a half, and I'm going to spend 15 days there. I'm going to spend some time inside the Sphinx, underneath the Great Pyramid, and underneath some other ancient temples, and just getting new documentary, new footage, new perspective on things out there that I could bring to the people. And also let them live vicariously through my eyes, give them a chance to see things and places that for some reason or another, some people may never get a chance to actually see. So I'm excited about that. And then towards the end of the year, the beginning of the year, I have a Manifest Destiny 2022 virtual retreat, January 8th and 9th, which is going to be mind blowing. And it's going to be a 12-hour event where I'm going to be talking about the power of manifestation, how to manifest. We're going to have some meditation instructors, yoga instructors, body hacking teachers, life coach teachers, psychologists. It's going to be a great 2-day event, Manifest Destiny 2022 virtual retreat, coming very soon.
Man, that sounds awesome. A lot going on. So yeah, guys, go check that out. I thought tonight we start out with, let's start deep. Let's start with a bang. Let's start with the secret space program. Now, I've had plenty of guests on that claim to even partake in the secret space program. I've had guests that have claimed to be super soldiers. I've had guests that have claimed to even gone as far as off planet to Mars and beyond our solar system. But those are not verifiable. None of these stories are. But they are definitely interesting. There's a lot of correlations. I think that's something we should pay attention to. But we do know that NASA is not being very honest and has not been honest for a long time. We know that a lot of the pictures and images we see from NASA have been edited, and we're not seeing the true images, and that there have been anomalies found on the moon, Mars, that look like there's possible life there right now.
That's right.
Not to say that there may have been there ancient, but there could even be there now. So I'd like to get your thoughts on the possibilities of how far our technology could be gone, because we have our Space Force that's been announced, so we don't know much about it.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I do own a tech company called First Class Space Agency. It's based out of South Florida. It's registered with the European Space Agency and registered with SAMS, which is the link to the Pentagon to be able to submit proposals and research and development. So I'm approved by NASA as well as European Space Agency. And it gives me access to private space, and not only private space, but also top secret private space meetings, where top secret private space, in other words, corporations involved in space tech and space travel meet. And what I can tell you from those meetings, without violating anything, is that we used to think that we, meaning the citizens of the world, we used to think that, or at least hear that the corporations and the government were about 50 years ahead of us technologically. Well, you can just erase that from your mind. Okay. It's more like 300 years ahead, at least. Now, to put that in perspective, think of where we came in the last 100 years as a civilization for mainstream technology. We went from a horse, buggy, and carriage to putting remote control cars on other planets and moons in our solar system, even sending devices, probes outside of our own solar system into intergalactic space. We did that within 100 years. So imagine being 300 years ahead with all the suppressed technologies that do exist right now today. Imagine the development of those another 200 years from now. So what we're talking about is a very highly sophisticated, technologically advanced, hegemonic organization that has full power and control over technology and the release of technologies in a way where they've moved it into the private arena, so that people like us can't pull a Freedom of Information Act and request to see what's going on behind the scenes. And so because of that, these are totally unacknowledged, unchecked projects that are taking huge gobs of money. And now that we have the Space Force, it gives them the right to say, you know what, guys, we got to redirect 20 trillion to this Space Force. We can't tell you what the money is being used for, but the money then is siphoned into companies that are registered with SAMS and the Pentagon and the European Space Agency. They're getting sent out by government, they're getting government contracts so that they then can work on these private projects outside of the prying eyes of the civilians of the world. And so that's what's going on right now. And so there's a lot of huge projects, portal technology, warp technology, microwave acceleration, EM drives type technologies, anti-gravity technologies, stealth, and also cloaking technology. All these technologies are real and they exist, and they're being developed on the highest of highest levels that you can even imagine from what you see on science fiction movies. They're real.
That's insane. And, it's probably an enormous threat to big oil and corporations to have this stuff known by the public. So that's why they try extra hard to make us, seem like these tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorists when we talk about this stuff, because it does sound so fantastic. It does sound like it's straight out of Star Wars. But from the more I'm learning, reality is more like Star Wars than we would ever imagine.
Yes, it is. You're so right. I mean, and people always go to me like, why can't we just, get rid of the oil and everything's going to be okay? We can just stop using gas. Well, not that easy. You got to realize oil is in everything. Oil is in the plastic that's surrounding this microphone. Oil is in the plastic that makes the case for my laptop computer. Oil is in the casing of this mouse. Oil is in everything. Oil is even used in in the way that they actually spray your food and the crops for bugs. Oil is it's in your car dashboard. It's in everything. Like anything you can almost think of, they've incorporated oil into it, even though it probably doesn't need oil. And so it's so entrenched in our reality that for them to just turn it off instantaneously would literally crash the economy, literally. So this kind of relief of oil and moving into other different types of green solutions is going to take a lot of time, and it's going to be a very slow drip by drip pace.
Yeah, and when you look at, you said that the technology could be up to 300 plus years ahead of what we're told. I mean, forget anti-gravitics, that's wormhole technology, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Do you think that we're actually dealing with, we could have jump rooms that could instantaneously transport us to a different planet?
Oh, yeah, I totally believe that. I mean, NASA has discovered X points. They made this knowledge available to us about 4 years ago, maybe 5 now. But they've discovered X points around planet Earth, and these X points are portals that open and close at various times of the day. And so for them to even release that information to us and scientifically tell us about them, which has now made it into mainstream science, astrophysics, and everything else is being taught in colleges. So these portals do exist. Now, with technology and different forms of exotic energy like antimatter, stable portals, stable wormholes can be developed. But I truly do believe that there is an ancient superhighway, an ancient portal superhighway that has been established from deep antiquity, even prior to the current beings that we have here now that are probably using this ancient superhighway. Even prior to them, we're talking about billions of years old, and it's been inherited, just like the Egyptians inherited what was there. The Mayans inherited what was there. They didn't build those things. That stuff was pre-dynastic era, pre-Mayan era, pre-Aztec. They inherited the tech. Well, I think there's a galactic superhighway of portals that have been established, and that even some of the more newer races inherited some of that tech that was there and learned how to use it. And eventually we will too. And I think that some of these government top secret programs have already learned how to access some of these and have already made a few uses of it as well.
When you were mentioning the ancient aspects of it, it makes me think about these doors to nowhere that have been built into some megalithic structures. They could be ancient jump rooms.
Yes, that's exactly what they are. You have these indentions into solid stone, and they always seem to have this little tiny, smaller indentation, almost like would be like a keyhole of some sort. So whoever would stand there would put something against that little slot in the concrete or in the stone, and then they would vanish. And there's records of this happening all over the world. All the indigenous cultures, especially in the Americas, have actually witnessed this happen. And it's really amazing because I went down to Tula, Mexico, Tula, Mexico, a few years ago, and I went to there's a pyramid of Thoth. He has a pyramid down there. Kukulkan. He's got his own pyramid. It still is the same person. Quetzalcoatl, Kukulkan, same person. But this pyramid in the back, it has one of these indentions. And so according to the indigenous people there and the indigenous guide that I hired, he would actually go into that spot, put something against that wall, and then he would vanish and he would disappear. And then he would come back at whatever random time. And so, of course, the people deified him and called him a god. But there's accounts of this happening all over the planet.
I want to talk about the moon for a minute. Let's start with the moon landing. There are many that believe that the footage we see is not real from the moon landing, that Kubrick may have even had something to do with this footage. I'd like to get your thought. Do you think we actually went to the moon when they say we did, and this is actual real footage?
I wrote a famous blog that went viral called Yes, We Went to the Moon, and Yes, We Lied About It. And so, yes, we did. So we went to the moon. Now, the moon was a reconnaissance mission. Landing on the moon was a reconnaissance mission. Now, there's a couple things I got to debunk of the debunking. The first thing is you can't leave planet Earth because the Van Allen radiation belt, nobody can survive it. Okay, that's false. A big lie we have to stop spreading around. People have to stop copying that information and running away with it. Do a little bit of research. You found out that during the Mercury missions, long before Apollo, we discovered that there was a radiation belt around planet Earth. And so Van Allen, Dr. Van Allen, he brought this up to the NASA technicians and the rocket scientists, and they said, oh, yeah, we got to take a look at this. They sent the probe up. Oh, sure enough, there's a radiation belt here. We got to figure out what we can do. Is it dangerous or what? After several tests and probes and so forth, and accessing and looking at the magnetic fields of the Earth, they realized two things. The first thing was a person would need to be in an unprotected vessel for 3 to 4 months before receiving a lethal dose of enough radiation in the Van Allen radiation belt to be fatal. The second thing was, because of Earth's magnetic field, the magnetic belts that whip out and around up into the upper atmosphere into space, it opens up gigantic openings or pathways into space that move the radiation out of the way, kind of like doorways or superhighways, if you want to call it. And so when they realized this, they said, oh, okay. So they plotted, and the actual plotted course for the rocket to leave Earth and from the launch window is available to the general public. They literally went through an opening that's caused by the Earth's magnetic fields, and they found that because the capsule is radiation hardened, protected against radiation, and it only takes 1 day to get through the radiation belt, and it's going to be the most minimalist of radiation because they're flying through an area where the magnetic belts have opened up like a superhighway. And so they went right through it, not even a scratch, no problems, no issues. So throw the Van Allen radiation belt theory out into the garbage and stop speaking about it. The next thing is they always show this boot. They show that this astronaut's bottom shoe is so smooth, but yet there's a boot print on the moon. Okay. The hoaxers that made that image for you, they cropped out the picture of something called the overshoe, which is in my blog as well. And the overshoe, and I even have an X-ray image of it. And I have a video from the 1960s of an astronaut putting on the full suit with the overshoe. It's a Kevlar overshoe. It weighs about 25 pounds, and it slips. Your foot slips in, and then you Velcro it over. You don't fly around in a capsule with 5 guys with 25-pound clunking boots on. And you got to maneuver around that capsule on the inside with very crunched space. You only put that on when you're getting ready to do a moonwalk, and that overshoe has the exact boot print that matches the same boot print in the sand on the moon. They cropped it out for a reason. Now, if you go to the space agency, if you go to the Space Coast in Florida, walk inside, and you'll see for yourself the suit and the overshoes are right there. And I put the images of them in my blog as well. The other thing was, when we sent those missions up to do a low lunar orbit around the moon prior to Apollo, those lunar missions sent back images of anomalies on the moon, things that shouldn't be there, towers, things that look like castles, glass castles, dome structures, all of these weird things, and all this debris laying around on the surface in certain areas. And so it was like, we need to send people up there that can pick this stuff up and bring it back. That's what Apollo was all about. And they went up there and they started bringing pieces and fragments of this stuff back and trying to figure out what was going on. They even installed a satellite array on the moon that can receive laser communications from Earth. Now, why would they do that? And every single day, still to this very current day, they send a laser communication to that satellite array that they left behind on the moon. And what they did was they showed some real footage mixed with fake Hollywood footage to keep the consistency of people thinking there's just a barren landscape of nothingness up there. Meanwhile, it was a reconnaissance mission to go and capture and grab and take and bring back real bits of whatever that stuff was up there, that stuff. And the audio file, which is also attached to my my blog, from the Freedom of Information Act of the Apollo 11 black box audio, where the astronauts are clearly saying, looking down at a dome structure and then saying, I bet the people down there never get out. And my theory is that the reason why you see those craters are all the same depth approximately, and there's never anything that hits the moon in an angle and skids into a crater. It's always straight down and then stops at a certain level because something's underneath those craters. And a lot of those craters, I think, are artificial because there's not enough ejecta to substantiate the size of the crater. The ejecta should be around the rim, and there's not enough ejectas. Where did the ejecta go? Somebody came and took away that. So there's a lot of question marks about the moon. And I even go over the radar imaging from the Arecibo satellite in Puerto Rico that took ground penetrating radar. You can see about 35 meters below the moon's surface on usgs.gov. And it clearly shows, without any editing, without any Photoshop, straight radar images show that there's beams beneath the surface of the moon. So all in all, I think the moon is a remnant of an ancient civilization, or potentially maybe even people still living up there now of some sort. And the reason why we haven't gone back is because they were like, you guys tried to crash a bomb into this thing. You guys are making a mess up here. You're doing too much, man. Listen, you guys stay off of it. You guys can't come back right now, all right? Y'all grow up a little bit more and we'll communicate. You can put the satellites down. We'll talk back and forth. We'll let you know when it's okay to come back. Right now, you guys got to get out of here. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I feel it's all about.
Yeah, that makes sense. So when it comes to the dark side, do you think that there is a lot more going on the actual surface of the dark side, that if we were able to see, it would be, game over?
Oh, man, there's a lot going on back there. So we set the mission to the moon, right? And that was called the Clementine mission, military top secret mission, which then later became declassified. Now, as soon as I read the name of this, because I was going through old files, I like digging through the old stuff, because that's where you're going to be able to get to some truth, And I go, Clementine mission. And I'm thinking, Clementine to the moon? And that's it. I bet this thing never came back, or it crashed. And sure enough, what happened? It never came back. And why did I assume that? Oh, my darling Clementine, you were lost and gone forever. Famous country song. Oh, my darling Clementine, you were lost and gone forever. So I knew there was one, they named it Clementine for a reason. It was not meant to come back. And so I said, I got to dig into this thing hardcore. So I went into the Clementine mission. I was going through every image, everything they had on the Clementine mission. And I found that they had sent back a lot of data. And I said, holy crap. I downloaded all the data off the server. And I started seeing all kind of anomalies on the back side of the moon. I hate to call it the dark side because it does receive light. It's just that we can never see it because the moon is in a geosynchronous orbit with the Earth. So we only get to see one face from our perspective. But the moon does rotate and all sides get light at a particular time of day. And so on that side, there's structures, there's massive structures. And this Clementine satellite hit one in its low lunar orbit and went down there and never came back. I think it was put on that trajectory to hit it so they can get close-up images of some of the things, maybe even transmit some type of sample, or maybe just dropping off a note, a letter. I'm saying a digital note to whoever's on that side. Another weird thing that happened on that dark side or the back side is during one of the Apollo missions, when you go around the back side of the moon, you're out of comms range with Houston, all right, or Florida. You're out of comms range with home base because the moon itself, that body is actually blocking your comm. You can't make radio communication. So there is this blackout period that happens with the comms. Now, during this blackout period, the comms got hacked. On the black side of the moon, they got hacked by who? And whoever it was broadcasting this weird music, and they were all freaking out. Do you hear that? Yeah, I can't believe I'm hearing this music. Where's this music coming from? There was music coming from the surface of the moon on the backside. It was hacked into their comms. Well documented, Freedom of Information Act, black box audio, and also redacted audio printed documents prove the evidence of this, and it's available to the general public, so it's not even hidden. So a lot of interesting stuff going on back there. Perfect place to put a base is on the backside because the people of Earth can never perceive what they're doing, their comings and their goings.
That's amazing. And it's amazing the amount of stuff you could find just through the Freedom of Information Act and just doing a little digging that proves, yes, there's something really amazing going on the moon. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as beyond the moon, still in our solar system, what do you think are some of the best prospects for life? I would think maybe some of the moons around Jupiter, but and maybe even Mars. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's some good prospects for life. I've got what I consider circumstantial visual evidence based off the data that I've downloaded from these space agency servers. And I would say, first and foremost, Venus. Let's start close on. Well, let's start even closer. Mercury, closest to the sun, Mercury. People go, oh, man, it's too hot. It's impossible. It's this molten lead rock. No, not anymore. All the science came back from the Mercury Messenger mission, including a lot of great images that show anomalies on Mercury. And the official press release now is that there's organic material on Mercury. There is an atmosphere. Oh, by the way, not only is there an atmosphere, 41% oxygen on Mercury. Earth only has 21% oxygen, to give you a comparison. Also, billions of tons of liquid water on Mercury, and also billions of tons of ice water as well. And because Mercury spins, I think it's one rotation on its axis for every equivalent, I think, 61 days of Earth. So every time Mercury makes one rotation, it's been like 61 Earth days. That's how slow it moves on its axis. That's how. So the planet, most of the planet is never in direct sunlight. And then if you're close to the poles, you're able to get to areas where the sun really doesn't hit direct, and you're just able. That's why there's liquid water and everything else. So I believe that there's life on Mercury. Venus. One of the most famous images that I found from USGS.gov, radar images scans of Venus, shows what looked to be fully intact cities on Venus. One city, which made the news, spans over 450 miles. Amazing. And that was also featured on Beyond Belief on George Norrie's show when I went and got interviewed by him, by Gaia. Because I believe that there's in that when people say, well, you can't, the barometric pressure is so incredible, it's crush everything and nothing can land there, and it's so steamy and hot, everything would catch on fire. But yet Russia sent 14 missions to Venus, successfully landed Venera 14, and not only did it land, it sent back audio and video, which is available to the general public. And what was interesting is it didn't get crushed, the parachute didn't melt, okay, and all this kind of craziness that we heard when we were growing up. So that means it's not exactly what they were saying in terms of the temperature and the conditions. Also, what was very interesting in this Russian video, which is available to the general public, there was something moving around on the ground like a little land crab in front of the lander. Pretty amazing stuff. Okay, so Venus, life, yes, in my opinion.
You don't hear about that in the history books, that's for sure.
No. Oh, you never, they're not putting that out there like that. Next planet, I would say Mars. Mars, there's anomalies there that show destruction, that show a major global catastrophe on the planet itself. But there's also some structures that are fairly new. You can tell because they're intact and they have roofs on top, or what we would perceive as roofs, I would say. There's also some very strange anomalous images that just don't look like stone statues, but look like statues that are looking at the camera. In other words, turning their head to look at the rover. I've never seen anybody design statues that turn their heads to look at things. So I would have to assume, based on circumstantial evidence of seeing multiples of these, is that there may be life up there that is observing the rover as it goes by. The next I would probably say would be Ceres, Ceres, which is the next planet that a lot of people don't even know exists. Yes, there's another planet after Mars named Ceres. It has more fresh water on it than Earth. More fresh water on it than Earth. And when they flew by it a few years ago, the lights were on. And that's trying to say, oh, I think it's some ice particles and blah, 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 blah. But when they got to what we call the dark side, guess what? The lights were on over there. The lights were on the light side. The lights were on the dark side. The lights were on at the equator. They were on all. There's no excuse you can make. The lights are on, period. It's because people live there. That's why. Okay. And then I would move on to Titan, the moon of Saturn. And Titan is another copy of Earth. And when we landed the Huygens probe, it landed in a lake. And on this descent, it took some phenomenal images. And I was able to take those video images from the video version of the landing, pull them in, screenshot them, pull them into Photoshop, take down the contrast, and all of a sudden, pyramids and different types of machine-looking things are there, and also with structures that look like they could be some type of buildings or houses or something. Evidence to me, of man-made or something that's manipulated by intelligence on Titan. I mean, I can just keep going on and on. It's the life lives throughout this entire solar system. Life is everywhere here. I mean, everywhere. There's a 20 million light years away. There's an exoplanet, and it might have life. No, right above your heads, guys. There's planets right here and moons right here that have life on it, right above our heads.
And just based on what you said about the astronauts saying those people must never get out there, that makes me think that some of the life is humanoid or could look just like us. What do you think about that?
I think that humanoid body types permeate the entire universe. In other words, to be able to travel the stars, to build something that can manipulate your environment and even to leave your planet, you have to have this particular body type. They don't have to look exactly the same, but you need this type. I think that there's animals on Earth right now that are 10,000 times smarter than a human. I think an octopus is smarter than humans. I think elephants are smarter than humans. I think dolphins and killer whales are smarter than humans, but they lack this. They don't have the ability to manipulate the environment. And because of that, they're stuck where they are in their ecosystems. And so we may not be the most intelligent, but we got a bilateral, bipedal, hominidal type of a body structure, which gives us the ability to manipulate environment and build tools to help us do the things that we physically can't do. And because of that, I think that anytime, any type of civilization that evolves on any planet, anywhere in the universe, you're going to find a hominid type structure that's going to be the ones that make it out into space and move on to create breakaway civilizations or even evolve technologically on their planet without leaving into space, just because this body type is the one that I think evolution creates for the ability to do what we do, manipulate the environment.
Now, something that is talked about in the mainstream often regarding space is threats from space. Mm-hmm. Although we seem to have been pretty damn lucky the past even couple hundred years when it comes to threats from space, large rocks or anything else of a cosmic nature. But there's always that chance. There's always a chance that any day we could be hit with a space rock and, some terrible things could happen. And there has been evidence that our magnetic north is rapidly moving, and that could cause some problems. That could cause a magnetic reversal in the future. So, there are threats from space, and I think we should talk a little bit about the possibilities of anything in our lifetime that we may need to look towards.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a couple things that we have to evaluate. Number one is we have another moon. It's really a moonlet that orbits our planet. A lot of people don't even know it exists. Some people like to call it wormwood. It's this oblong, weird-shaped, gigantic rock, about maybe a third the size of our moon that we have. And it orbits in this very strange, weird flip-flop orbit all the time. And the reason why it's dangerous is because if something passes by close Earth orbit, close inner solar system orbit, it could gravitationally shift this object, this moonlet, and cause it to crash directly into Earth. It could rendezvous with our planet. It's in a very weird type of a unstable orbit. And it's in this very strange dance. And if it happens, if that hits us, well, listen, this thing is massive. Kiss everything goodbye. It's over. Okay, that's one.
Right.
Now, there's another one called Apophis, named after an ancient Egyptian god, right? And so Apophis, I remember tracking this back in 2008, that it was going to swing by in 2013. And in 2013, this thing is about the size of Texas. It swung between the sun. It swung between the moon and the Earth. It literally scraped us, okay, on this way by. NASA didn't say anything until it passed by to, reduce the risk of pandemonium. But this thing is massive. Now, what's interesting is when it scraped by on that run, it slipped through something we call in astrophysics a gravitational keyhole. Now, when something goes through a gravitational keyhole, it means it's now on another bypass or pass by. It can slip into a direct orbit where it's going to crash into the object, or in this case, our Earth. Now, in that gravitational keyhole, calculations have already been done now by computers to see that within the next 100 years, it is going to hit Earth. It's going to come back by in, I think, 2035, maybe, something like that. And then again, it'll be again back in 2060 something. But within the next 100 years, it's on a trajectory to crash into Earth. And so this is why an emergency mission was created by Obama, his administration, to land on an object in space like a giant asteroid and try to shift its orbit, because you can't blow it up. If you blow it up, then multiple giant chunks hit your planet and burn the whole planet down. So that's a dumb idea. So they realized this. Okay, well, we can't do that. We need to land on it, and we need to put thrusters on it, and we need to shift its orbit so that we can move it out of the keyhole and into a more stable orbit where it won't impact the planet. And so that's the mission that's going on right now, where they're trying to rendezvous with stuff like this and learn how to move them and shift their orbits in preparation for Apophis. And the reason why the world hasn't been made privy to this information, in other words, like it's not just on the front headline news, is because pandemonium and everything else would ensue. But Apophis is one that's very deadly right now. So Apophis and the moonlet that we have already orbiting our planet, between those things, those are two things that potentially could wipe out life on Earth, which is why we do need a breakaway civilization.
Yeah, and what you said about this secret mission to put thrusters on an asteroid, I mean, that sounds fantastic. It sounds like a great idea. And it seems like, with the advanced technology we could possibly already have with our secret space program and things of this nature, that it could be possible before the next time it swings around, Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Very, very possible. I think it will happen. I don't think they're going to let that thing crash into our planet. We have too much technology that we can prevent it from happening. This happened before in ancient times, according to the Sumerian tablets. And instead of moving the asteroid, which they had the power to do, they allowed it to crash into Earth so that they can start fresh. But that was when other people were basically running and controlling what was going to happen, the fate of the planet. Now the fate's in our hands, and I don't think we're going to let that happen.
Oh, man, I hope not. Before we move away from threats from space, of course, we all know that there have been so many exoplanets discovered. And for a while, there was a lot of talk about Planet 9 or Planet X or this hidden planet just beyond our solar system that could possibly swing into orbit from into our solar system and perturb the orbits of other planets and cause some problems. Yeah. What do you think about that possibility?
Yeah, now they've, this planet, they didn't want to call it Planet X, so they call it Planet 9.
Right.
You always twist. But they found, even since then, even more rogue planets and more incredible stuff. They found an entire solar system outside of our solar system, but still in the inner Oort cloud area. So now we know we live in a binary solar system. We have two suns. There's another sun in here. It's a brown dwarf, which is a very dim and faint star, but it has the same mass as our sun, even though it's smaller because it has more dense, and it has little planets orbiting it. And well, not little, but some are big, but it has 6 of them orbiting it. So we have a solar system within a solar. Now it orbits our yellow star every 4,200 years, according to astrophysicists and astronomers. And this other Planet 9 is just another one of these rogue planets floating through. It's on a very strange orbit, a very weird elliptical orbit around our sun. And according to different trajectories and models, it seems as if it may not even enter and perturb anything for the next 800 to 1,000 years. So I think we're going to be fine in our lifetime, at least, or maybe the next 8 generations will be okay. At some point, somebody's going to have to address that issue with that Planet 9. And the other one is orbiting so far outside of our sun, it is tugging and pulling on our magnetic field. Okay, that other brown dwarf, it's pulling and tugging, and it is creating or could create a magnetic flip. And even if it tugs hard enough gravitationally, it could cause the crust of the Earth to shift, to slip. And so if a tectonic plate big enough slips, then you get a pole shift of the crust of the Earth, which is how Antarctica ended up where it's at right now. Antarctica used to be a lush, plush, tropical place because that landmass was in a different location. There was an orbit like the one we're looking at from this other solar system that's in our solar system that created a gravitational field strong enough to slip the crust on Earth, which allowed Antarctica to shift into that position. And the evidence of this is the fact that when they find animals down there underneath the ice, when they open them up to do an autopsy, they discover that they have undigested food in their bellies, which means that they were flash frozen, which again proves that landmass moved there very, very rapidly and probably created a global flood, because when that much land moves, the rest of the water, it floods the entire planet. So it could give more credence even to the global flood theory as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Now, with all the exoplanets that have been discovered recently around us, and everything else that's coming out, especially with the mainstream disclosure, basically them admitting, yes, there's something up there that we don't know what it is. Do you think that NASA is ever going to come out and admit that they probably know that there's life on these, especially some of these exoplanets that may be in the Goldilocks zone, and possibly even our own solar system. From what you said, there's definitely some. So do you think NASA in our lifetime is ever going to come out, or mainstream science or academia, and say, we've been lying? Or is it going to come out a different way?
It's probably going to come out a different way. More likely, the disclosure that you're giving and I'm giving is probably going to be the biggest and best disclosure that some people in this generation will get. Eventually, there will be a paradigm shift, because remember this: no matter what you look at in terms of kingships and rulerships and civilizations and all these different power structures that have ruled the planet, they don't persist forever. No kingdom persists forever. No one can dominate the planet forever. And so over time, there's a rise and fall even of who's in power. And there's no way to stop that. It's a cycle. And so eventually this cycle will come of domination will come to an end in terms of NASA and the military industrial complex being in collusion. Eventually that domination will come to an end. I don't know when, but it will, because this is a cycle that we're in. And as more people become conscious, as more people wake up to the truth and the real reality of what's going on this planet and also in space, and as more people begin to help create that paradigm shift in consciousness and then take on these jobs at these companies where they're not conscious, and they start bringing in other words, infiltrate these systems, and then we get control. That could take some time, but eventually the infiltration is going to happen. It's unstoppable, because consciousness is a virus, and that's what's happening. And so there's yin and yang, and right now yang has been dominated, but yin is getting ready to redominate and take back over, overthrow yang for a period of time. And we will see that rise and fall of this darkness. The darkness will fall and the light will rise again.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah.
Now, we talked a little bit about physical life, humanoids, and things of that nature that could possibly be beyond our planet. But what about non-physical life, interdimensional, extra-dimensional, ultra-dimensional, whatever you want to call beings that we can't see that could possibly be around us at all times, just beyond the frequency or spectrum that we can see? Do you think that that's what we're dealing with?
We're dealing with a lot. We're dealing with physical beings in the third dimension, just like we're here. They have cloaking technology. They know that a human being can only see 1% of the light spectrum. We can see nothing. We're literally walking around blind. Like, we're blind as bats. Bats can see more than us, actually. And so they're walking around in cloaking technology just outside of our light wave frequency. They can walk around in gamma. They can walk around in infrared. They can walk around in ultraviolet, and we wouldn't even know they were there. Okay, so we have those 3D. That's why UFOs appear to vanish in and out of existence. They're just shifting a phase of their light spectrum and just, okay, we'll just go hide for now, right in the same spot. We're just going to go into ultraviolet. They won't see us. And so, this thing went multidimensional. It's gone. No, it's just technology. And then we also have the ultra dimensionals. So there's now, in quantum physics and theoretical physics, we believe that there's 11 dimensions that make up the entire universe. And each dimension is stacked literally one planet unit above each other on a 90-degree angle going up. So it's heavily stacked. It's not like they're far away. They're right here on top of us, literally. But we can't get into them because we don't know how to obtain the frequency of that dimension. But if you have the technology to phase shift your subatomic frequency to match the frequency of the other dimension, you can walk right into it. And so there's civilizations that are billions of years old that have developed this ability to walk into other dimensions by phase shifting their subatomic frequency. We're going to match the third dimension frequency in the universe, and we're going to walk right in and experience their dimension. This is talked about in ancient tablets. It's talked about in the emerald tablets. You know, they came in from a different dimension. They entered and walked right in, created bodies, sent consciousness into the bodies and walked amongst men, they said, but unlike men. Okay, this is nothing new. They've been doing this for eons. And so you have the multidimensionals or ultra dimensionals, if you want to call them that. So you have a combination of both. You have multidimensional walk-ins, and you also have these third dimensional beings that are right here with us, same physical bodies, with just technology that makes them appear to look like they can disappear and reappear at will.
And there seems to be a huge connection to human consciousness. People being able to communicate with these ships and asking them to blink or do something. There's an instantaneous, if you want to call it, psychic link or something. But it seems to be not only connected to ET, but us, every living thing. It's all connected together, would you say?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Dr. Stephen Greer has some work that has come kind of really undeniable. Whether you agree with him on certain topics or not, I mean, it's undeniable evidence that people have gone out in teams and they have focused and meditated on communicating with these ships, and these ships have shown up. These ships have changed colors. They've made flashes. They've done all this stuff over and over again with literally hundreds of witnesses. And when something happens that many times, you really can't throw it away. It's too much circumstantial evidence. And so there is some type of psychological or psychic link that's capable between a human and these advanced beings. They have the ability to read our minds, have the ability to sense information from our minds directly. So instead of accessing a computer for information or us transmitting a signal to them through technology, our avatar body is the technology, and our avatar body is really some of the most advanced technology in the universe anyway. So they just access the avatar consciousness, and they're able to read exactly what we're thinking, and they can even read our intentions as well.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I hope that, with all the disclosure that's coming out, there's been more people kind of open to the whole extraterrestrial UFO phenomenon. But when it comes to the disclosure itself, I don't trust any of the information that is coming out of our mainstream or our government or even the big players that seem to be involved with this. I pay attention to it, but it's being painted in different lights. Some days it's a threat, some days we don't know, some days it's swamp gas, Yeah. And the sources, of course, coming from is the government and military, and they have been proven to be some of the least trustworthy entities on the planet. So, I think that disclosure is ultimately going to come from us. But what do you think is going on with this mainstream, all of a sudden, kind of talk about UFOs and openness?
Yeah. Right. They've now labeled it UAPs because they want to make it professional. So we've given the UFO people such a hard, look, and we've made them look like tinfoil hat crazy. So now we can't use that because then we're going to look like we've already made the consciousness link to somebody talking about UFOs as being crazy. So we've got to add something. We got to make up something different. Oh, UAP. We'll call it a UAP now. And so we got these UAPs. Some are ours, some are theirs. In other words, some are ours that we've developed off of our own alien reproduction technology, reverse engineering, and some are theirs, being our off-world beings that are really visiting this planet. And so what they've done is they said, you know what? There's no other wars to fight here. We've pretty much dominated the entire planet. We ran rush out on everybody. I think we need to keep this war machine going somehow. We got to keep the money coming because the money is where it's at in war. Space Force. Oh, we got the Space Force. Now, okay, we got the okay from the people. We can send money to the Space Force. But what if there's no threats coming and everybody thinks it's so pristine and happy and go lucky out there? Why would we need weapons in space? Oh, well, we got to make a threat now. So every time one of these things show up at a military base, which they do, these UFOs come to military bases, they go straight to the nukes or they deactivate the nukes. This is well documented. But these are now threats to national security. These are threats to global security. These things, we don't know what their intent is. They're so powerful, they can destroy us, blah, 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 blah. And so now we need you guys to let us take $20 trillion so we can build these new weapons. Don't ask us what they are. We're never going to show them to you. But we're going to take your money and build them because there's a threat out here. So this whole disclosure that they've given us, this ridiculous 17-page document, admitting to UFOs and admitting to the fact that they cannot maneuver and things like that, which is fine. But it's also put a fear-based, threat-based type of a disclosure on it. And so it's all about positioning themselves for when they want to make the money grab, positioning themselves for when they want to create new opportunities for private contractors to start building all kind of crazy space tech weapons and things like that. It's all about keeping the finances and the money of the war machine moving forward.
I have to agree with pretty much all of that. But what about us? What about the majority of planet Earth? Do you think that we're ready to hear that we're not alone and that these beings are visiting us and have been for possibly thousands and thousands of years?
I think we're more than ready. Now, there's a small sect of people that are probably going to drop down on their knees and start praying because they're going to think the Savior's arrived. But I think that the majority of the planet is more than ready. We've been desensitized from all the Hollywood movies. We've been desensitized now from all these UAP reports and everything else coming out. It's common talk now. Oh yeah. People who didn't believe it now. Oh yeah, I knew about it years ago. Yeah, everybody's on board now. It's like when you have one team that starts playing really good in any kind of sport. Oh, everybody's on board all of a sudden. So I think people are more than ready. It's just a matter of of us really just taking control of the whole thing and understanding like we've been manipulated. And we need to come together. We need to break down this divide and conquer. We need to stop this separation that we have going on with one another. We need to have open communication and talks. And we need to figure out how we're going to handle this as a civilization, because it's really our planet, not this small group of hegemonic oligarchs. It's our planet that we should be able to control how we communicate with these beings, how we interact with these beings. Every time one shows up, it shouldn't be that we have military trying to shoot them down. It should be open arms. Let's have communication. Let's open the communication. But to do that, we have to take back control of our planet. We have to overthrow the oligarchs, take back control of this planet, and we have to do it in a way where everyone's on the same accord. So that's a big coordination that needs to take place between 7.7 billion people. Even if we at least got a third of the 7.7 billion to participate in some way, shape, or form, it's still a huge undertaking, but it can be done, and it will be done over time.
Yeah, I think this is a great direction to go to close out the show on, is what people can do to makes things better, not only for their own lives, but for everyone. You mentioned it a second ago. People are intentionally being divided. They're being distracted from the real enemy, from the oligarchs. But they're also being distracted from their own problems that they could be working on in themselves. Yeah. And I think that that's probably step one. Before you can do anything to help anyone else or this planet, you got to fix your own stuff. And what do you think are some of the ways that people could start? Because that's the hardest part, is where do we start? Where do we start with, making our lives better, making ourselves better? Man, I got to get healthy. I got to eat better. I got to start being such a grouch all the time and cursing out people, all these things. What advice can you give people in these, divisive times?
I think the first thing people have to do is realize that you have to have self-love. A lot of people are walking around out here not realizing they don't love themselves. And so the reason why they're lashing out at everyone, the reason why they're always angry, have attitudes, and always doing things that hurt other people is because they've filled up with so much trauma and so much hate on the inside. It's what's spilling over to the outside becomes the evidence. That's the side effect of what's going on inside the person, whatever you see on the outside. So people need to have trauma release. They need to do trauma release. They need to do meditation. They need to eat healthier foods. They need to take time to smell the roses and get out in nature and get grounded in nature so that we can have those flow of negative ions come into the body and balance us out, balance out our positive charge, take away that edge, okay? And then we also need to realize that once we are good and happy to love ourselves and understand that we're loving ourselves and happy with ourselves, then we need to go out and start helping and loving other people. If you're on an airplane and the airplane, any flight you're getting on, the stewardess comes out and they show you how these oxygen masks work. And they say, in case of an emergency and the oxygen mask drops, please put yours on first before you help anyone else. Make sure there's oxygen flowing to you before you help anyone else. You can't help anyone if you're not getting the oxygen. You have to take care of yourself first. And it doesn't mean you're being egotistical or being selfish. It means you got to understand, you got to take a journey to inner space. You got to love yourself. And once you love yourself, you're going to realize that everyone out there is just another version of you. And once you realize everyone's just a version of you, you're going to love them like you love yourself. And you're going to treat people with respect and dignity. And you're going to see through this divide and conquer tactic. I'm God's chosen people. No, we're God's chosen people. No, I'm a Democrat. No, I'm a Republican, and all this kind of crazy stuff. That stuff's got to go bye-bye. That's a waste.
Right.
It's all a trick. It's all divide and conquer. It's all a trick to keep you. My race is better than yours. Oh, my race is better. It's a trick, man. I'm telling you. And once you see past that veil is removed from your eye, that it's all foolishness, this planet is going to do a complete backflip and change up. And that process, once the beginning of that part of the awakening happens, the change is going to be so quick and fast. It's going to sweep through the world like a good pandemic and really reverse a lot of negative thoughts, negative thinking, and unite the planet as one and help usher us into the next golden age.
Man, I can't wait for that. And one of the things I've noticed personally in my own life, when I apply these principles of, self-love, and once I take better care of myself and take those first steps and then actually move on to helping others, man, the power of positivity and positive energy can manifest amazing things in your life and almost instantaneously. If you make it an effort, a concerted effort every day to be positive and help somebody else, it will come back to you. And I've noticed this myself every day that it happens,
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. And positive affirmations. Speak positive to yourself. Stop thinking negative. I can't do this. I suck. I'm no good. Horrible things to think, because your body is listening to you, and you're actually coding your DNA to believe those things, and you're bringing back negative karma back to yourself, a negative law of attraction, because you're putting out negative vibes, negative energy, negative thoughts. Speak positive. If you can't do something, I'm going to find a way to solve this problem. I'm going to find someone that can help me fix this. I'm going to become better. I can do this. I'm great. Think about things that you've done successful in your life and meditate on those things. Change the way you think about yourself and start speaking positive affirmations to yourself every single day. If you do that for 3 times a day for 21 days, scientifically proven, you reprogram your DNA.
Now, what do you think the answer is to the oligarchs? How do we get the oligarchs out of power and put the people back in power? Do you think this is even possible?
It's possible. It's been done before, and it'll be done again. There's less than 100 people controlling what 7.7 billion people do. That can't continue. This is why the Advanced Galactic Federation that's out there, these advanced beings, why they don't directly interact with us, everyone on the planet. Why don't they just land in plain sight and start interacting? They can't, because of the oligarchs. We're like babies. We can't even crawl yet. We've got to learn how to crawl, walk, and then even run. When we start walking, we'll get a little bit more assistant, a little bit more open access. But when they see 7.7 billion people bowing down to less than 100, they're scratching their heads like, they're not ready yet. They're just not ready yet. Now, the key to overthrowing this oligarch system is very simple, but very hard. There's not picketing, not rioting, not wars, stacking up container loads of guns and all that kind. That's dumb. What's going to work is stop participating in the system. That's it. That's the only thing that'll work. Literally, stop buying gas, stop buying food, stop going to work, stop paying your mortgage bill, stop paying your car payment, stop paying your student loans, stop paying taxes. If 20, 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 million people stop doing that's a small number. Stop doing that at once. The economy goes down instantly. And we just sit there like this. We've been stocking up on our stuff. We're sitting here. We're going to wait this one out until y'all negotiate with us. And we're the ones that's in power. You guys are going to do what we tell you to do because you work for us. Matter of fact, we don't even want you anymore. We're going to come up with a whole totally new system. We're going to put a new system in place. But see, that takes unity and it takes a lack of fear. You can't, a lot of people are afraid. Well, what happens if I don't do this? They're going to come arrest me. They're going to take my house. We have to come to a point where everybody's on the same accord. And then a simple stop participation is all it takes. It can be a week and we can have control of our planet back in 1 week, but we have to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. If we could do that, that would be perfect. Do you think that this is doable within, our lifetime, before we lose too much? Do you think that people will stand up and maybe start taking that first step?
It's very possible. I mean, it could be within the next 50 to 80 years, realistically. I think that we're on a track now to make some serious change on the planet with the amount of people that are becoming conscious. Even though we have our own infighting in the conscious community, yes, we have our own little internal battles, and people don't like this one and people don't like that one, and so forth and so on. That's kind of normal. It's going to happen. But overall, there is a huge conscious movement. Make no mistake about it. Don't get distracted by the little people that are arguing and having their little internal battles and things like that. Overall, on the grand scale, there is a consciousness virus that's moving and sweeping across this planet. And so I believe that we are dropping the seeds that are going to grow into trees that some of us may never sit in the shade of. That's very possible. But within the next 50 to 80 years, there could be some significant changes on this planet. This whole thing could look totally different by then.
Yeah, and it's worth it just to see those changes occur.
Yeah.
Billy, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Fantastic as usual, and we will definitely be talking to you again in the future.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, thanks again. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll talk to you again next week.